We're on the lunch break in the questioning of Donna Mclean at the undercover policing inquiry. Donna was a woman who was deceived into a long-term intimate relationship by the undercover officer Carlo Saracchi, who used the cover name Carlo Neri to infiltrate a number of socialist, anti-fascist, anti-racist groups, including No Platform, Socialist Party, others. Donna's given she's now completed the pre-prepared questions that the counsel to the inquiry had for her. There will be a closed session after lunch, which we won't be able to attend, to deal with a few matters which are personal and private. Then will be the further question section, where any further questions that any of the other co-participants have for Donna will be put to her. I'll be sticking around for all of it, but then we've pretty much done the vast majority of what's going to be said by Donna today. I'm joined with Dan Gilman, who was given evidence to the inquiry before, was infiltrated by Carlo Saracchi, and was mentioned quite a few times in Donna's evidence. What did you make of what Donna had to say?
I think it really brings home the emotional impact of a completely unjustified. You know, we're looking at Carlo, but this could be the same for every single undercover copper. And Donna repeatedly makes the point where there's a massive impact, emotional impact on individuals. At what justification? At what price? You know, the undercover coppers were exposing serious risks to democracy. You could in some way justify it, but there is no risk. There is no justification. And the language they use, like the collateral intrusion, attempts to justify something that is unjustifiable.
Yeah, I mean, I think she made the point very strongly. I think particularly at the end, that it was a really powerful statement she made about the overarching nature of the fact that all the women, the way all these undercover officers used women, who did use that whole thing. But also, I mean, she talks about if you put to one side whatever the sort of political sort of motivations for infiltrating groups or whatever, I mean, the level to intrusion of her personal family life, and the level to which he cultivated very intense relationships with her mother, with her sister, with her uncle's step granddaughter who was 3 years old. I mean, the depth of this intrusion into her life, which was totally unnecessary, had no policing aims whatsoever to it. Really, really disturbing to hear.
Yeah, I think Donna was a really good witness, just to highlight how Carlo and others went far beyond any kind of justifiable strategy. You know, Donna was quite clearly targeted by Carlo just because she was my friend. There was no other political target that Donna was, but just being my friend. So we've clearly seen over the whole inquiry how there was clearly a strategy for management to use and abuse women as part of the cover story. But the extent to which Carlo went another step and another step and another step to deepen and deepen the bond and the abuse of Donna, just because she was my friend. At no point is it. And she said, where did the humanity stop? Where did the professional strategy of the SDS stop? It quite clearly behaved in an inhumane manner in so many ways to so many people.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean that is something that she said herself. She believes that the reason why she was targeted by Carlo Saracchi was because she was your friend, because it gave a huge amount of credibility to him as a person, that any concerns that any activist may have had about his background, about where he come from, that he might be an undercover police officer, were quickly dispelled by this incredibly intense relationship, which involved proposal. What was particularly sickening, something which a lot of us weren't aware of, unless you read the documentation, which only a few of us have got access to, is that Carlo Saracchi denies so much of this relationship. He denies the intensity of the connection with the family. He denies telling the family that he wanted to have children with her. He denies telling her that he wanted to have children with her. He denies this appalling story that he fabricated about the sexual abuse of his sister by his father, which was something he used to emotionally manipulate the people he was targeting in order to fill out his exfiltration strategy.
Yeah, I mean, there's time and time again throughout. If you read Carlo's witness statement, and we'll hear it from himself next week, I think, isn't it, Carlo?
Yes, yeah, next week, all week.
Time and time again, it's just fabricates lies. Now, quite clearly, during his term of duty, he was fabricating lies just to justify his term of duty. Justify
with that drill, I'm afraid.
The massive expenses he spent and having a great fun time. He lied throughout his placement, and he continued his lies ever since. Time and time again. Experiences that Donna suffered from Carlo. I was there. I witnessed it. I saw it. I saw these things happen. And yet still Carlo maintains his complete lies, because quite clearly telling lies was what he was good at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the great skill they have. We were taken through a great deal of pretty kind of. Obviously, Donna's written a book, Small Town Girl. She's spent a lot of time. She talks quite harrowingly about how she became obsessed years later when she found out that Carla was in fact an undercover officer in 2015, when she met up with yourself and others who were pretty sure that was the case. And she became pretty obsessed by going over the detail of the relationship, the wheres and the whens and so forth. And she's delivered a very, very specific timeline of when these things happened. His dismissals, his downplaying of events, they don't sound at all credible. And I hope that the chair has come away from this morning's session with a very clear understanding of exactly what did happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence of Donna and the other women that are given evidence in the recent tranche of this are bringing home the human impact of the undercover cops. As a left-wing activist, as wrong as it is, you're not surprised to discover there's the state of spying on you. Donna wasn't a left-wing activist. She was a trade unionist. She was a socialist. But the complete surprise, as she said, it's tore her life apart. When we discovered Carlo was a spy cop, it was a difficult time. We researched it, investigated it. It wasn't pleasant, but it didn't have that turnaround, that double life she said she experienced, that dual life. It didn't have the impact on her. So it's really important. The inquiry here is from people like Donna who bring home that human, that turning over her whole life that Carlo has impacted on her and other people, her family around her as well.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And I think that, I think there's a lot of, like you say, I think for so many of us who were affected by undercover deployments, because we're engaged in struggle and in various different ways, in different political movements, we kind of, for a lot of us, it's impacted us, I think, a great deal. That's not arguable at all. But it is, I think, very different for someone like Donna, who wasn't necessarily kind of, au fait with the reality of what the state will do to political movements. And I mean, as well as there being that huge impact on her as a, emotionally, I mean, she talks quite movingly about the way that it flared up her autoimmune issues, that like the impact on her as death, it's been so significant. She talked about the nightmares, the way it affected her in work, the withdrawal, the effect on the relationship with her children. And I think it's really key for the inquiry to understand that the impact of these deployments is not just, I was lied to, that was all false, but it's ongoing.
And she said it's taken away years from her life. They were the childbearing years of her life taken away from her. Now, for all that Carlo tried to do with the agent provocateur stuff, it didn't have that impact on us activists. Now, we still did our activism because it wasn't illegal, it wasn't a public disorder threat. We still carried out those activities, and we're still proud of them. Whereas people like Donna, it's taken away years of her life. And that is in no way can any undercover policing strategy justify that, and quite clearly it was a strategy. This is not the only. There's other people like Donna's been similar circumstances. This was their strategy.
Very clearly. I mean, she talks about how she read the Undercover book by Rob Evans and Paul Lewis in 2014, and how this really, she'd never considered the idea that he could be an undercover police officer, but when hearing the stories of how other women had been deceived, and it was just so similar. The details were so much the same about the use of trauma, about the empathy bonding, about the exfiltration strategy. All these things having like so many parallels that she felt like when she spoke to activists in 2015 and they said, we think he's an undercover cop, she believed them immediately because it all just lined up.
And they're using the trauma. That is not an accident. It's a bunch of coppers have sat down somewhere and planned that strategy. They've picked out that sexual and emotional history of abuse. They've used that as a conscious strategy. And the impact on people, like Donna said, the ripples goes on and on and on.
Yeah, we see it again and again. I mean, and really, they traded in in trauma. I mean, they used it as part of their way in, their way out, and their way to like kind of keep people. I mean, one of the things, this horrific story, I mean, I won't go into like too much detail, but the horrific story which he concocted of his father sexually abusing his sister, and the fact that he was bits about that, like this called upon a huge amount of like emotional support that not only Donna gave to him, but also Joe Batty. We heard that he confided in him. Now, both these people didn't know that the other had been confided in, and he made both of them swear secrecy on the topic. This is something we see time and again from the undercover cops. This bonding through like sharing, like I've told you a secret, don't tell anybody else, but this will explain my behaviour.
Which is exactly when you're talking about abusive people. This is what the strategy they adopt. This is the strategy that people adopt to abuse people, and it's clearly what the STS officers were doing.
I wanted to like explore a few things. I mean, we've said a couple of times, and Donna like said it herself that she believes the reason why she was targeted by Carlos Araki was because of her friendship with you, and that the relationship that they had afforded him the ability to be very close to you, and like you talked about spending time away in Cornwall with yourself and your partner, the four of you as couples kind of going away, being close to each other. I wonder if you'd be willing to talk a bit about the way in which Carlo Saraki's ability to infiltrate yourself and the activism you were doing and be able to report on you was strengthened by that relationship he developed with Donna.
I think he'd been told by the SDS it was essential. I think it's quite clearly in their history that they justified these relationships, and they all had them justified, saying it's all part of our strategy. I don't think Carlo, he could have been trusted as a activist alongside us without abusing anybody. It's all part of their strategy they adopted. I think it did contribute in some small way to him being trusted, but it wasn't essential. He was trusted as an activist with a car who was keen and enthusiastic. He didn't need this abuse of people to justify a situation, but he clearly felt and had been told by his boss this is what he needed to do. Didn't need to do it. Wasn't it right?
I mean, it clearly gave him the ability to sit down with his bosses and go, "I've spent the entire weekend with Dan Gilman. I'm now a really trusted confidant of his because I am in a couple with someone who he also trusts, and I'm right on the inside of his personal life." And it feels like these sort of goals, these sort of like tick box things with their managers was a huge motivator for them to go to such depth. I mean, we heard from Donna how he would tell her every day that he loved her, but like the depth. I mean, if you haven't listened to this morning's questioning of Donna Mclean, I mean, it's harrowing. It's audio only, but it is online. It's in the comments, and here I've just put it in the description. The audio file, and I recommend to do so.
And she's dealt so fantastically well with having to go back 20 years in her past and go back and explain the years of her life that were taken away by his activities. She's done it so coherently, so clearly, so honestly. I'd like to see Carlo being as coherent and honest next week.
I don't think he is going to be. I think that's really important, though. It reminds me of something that Dave Smith said this morning. I apologize. I don't know if you can pick up. I presume you probably can pick up this sound, this drilling sound in the background, which has got in the way of a lot of these broadcasts lately. I do apologize for it. Hopefully it'll go away in a second. But I'm reminded of something that Dave Smith said this morning before we started the hearing the evidence, was that the women shouldn't be forced into the situation of reliving the trauma, of going over the detail. I mean, like we heard it. I mean, I think the solicitor of the inquiry was fairly delicate in the way of asking questions, but there was lots of and this is when you started to have sex.
Yeah, I mean, why should anyone be able to relive their lives publicly and the millions of pounds spent to go this process just because of the poor behaviour of coppers? Why are women going through this again and again and again? Because of their poor behaviour.
And we should stress that because of Carlo Saraki's denials of so many of the details, I mean, that he is essentially forcing her to relive many of these things, because the inquiry, part of the task of the inquiry is to establish the facts of what actually happened, which is appalling. I mean, he will be giving evidence next week, as we said. He'll be questioned over 4 days, though the inquiry often finishes after 3 with these officers. And many of the things that we've heard today, I would say nearly all the things we've heard today will be put to him.
There's also the point that gets forgotten sometimes is the whole time that the SS officers were out there watching on us, there was another copper never more than an hour away to rescue them if ever we discovered that they were undercover coppers. I mean, the evidence is there's no need for that. It's a massive expense, but that means that Donna has to relive a life where the whole time that Carlo was emotionally and sexually abusing her, there was another copper never more than an hour away watching this, watching their relationship, recording it all down.
As they went on holiday, I mean, they went on multiple holidays to Scotland, Cornwall, Italy.
This cover copper would have gone with never more than an hour away from Carlo. So they also went and paid for to go to Cornwall, to go to Scotland, and keep an eye on his relationships.
I mean, what I found, one of the details I found really insane was this: the fact that he was living, his wife and children. Because though he had one child, which he kind of made this cock and bull story about it being estranged from a previous relationship to Donna, his wife also had a second child during the relationship with Donna. While he was living with her pretty much full time, he was going supposedly to work each morning. He was actually going home to his wife. They had another child. She gave birth during that time period, which, I mean, but more like, it wasn't even that far away. His real life was really close by to the life that he was having with Donna just down the road.
This is that ripple effect which Donna mentioned today, isn't it? The numbers of people affected by this goes beyond more to different layers. His family, her friends, just the ripples go on and on.
Yeah, no, it's appalling. One of the big incidents, which has been called up a few times, it was called up with your questioning, was this New Year's Eve 2003, a party at Donna's flat, where Carlo Saracchi proposes to her in front of everybody, something he now denies. But then he not long after, goes on to encourage some activists there to go and firebomb a bookshop, which he claims is owned by a fascist.
And the impact on us, because we were never going to do it, the impact on us was minimal. It was never going to happen. We're not going to firebomb a charity shop. But the impact on Donna goes on and on and on. That whole experience of someone proposing to you is now the rug is dragged under her feet. You have to reflect on that whole process. And like I said, was it just a cover for trying to set us up? It might well have been.
And I mean, the depravity of somebody to do that to somebody just as a bit of a smokescreen in order to try and get like a better collar as part of his deployment. I mean, really speaks to the psychopathic element of what this man was like. Dave Smith is just nearby. He's just come on in, Dave. There's something you wanted to add?
Well, only in the sense that one of the things